Hey, and welcome to my channel. My name is Amanda, and we're going to wrap up the week. So, last week, if you saw that video, I talked about the books that I had finished and kind of the things that I had done and what was happening on the channel and all that stuff, and then what was coming up. So, I did not finish as many books this week as I did last week, but I did finish some, so let's talk about it. So, the first book that I finished after that video was Amari and the Great Game. This is book 2. I'll lean over so I can put it up here. This is book 2 in the Supernatural Investigators series. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. And Amari, it's middle grade fantasy. Amari is doing her second summer at the school, and I can't give away things, but she's hoping to do her second summer at the magic school that she was in the previous book, in book 1. And so her brother is, I feel like I can't say anything without giving away stuff for either book 1 or book 2. So I'll just say that Amari is still just as fantastic in this book as she was in the last book, and that I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I will definitely be reading book number 3. Now, we did not have any, I guess, earth-shattering information or well, that's not true. We did learn more about how magic works and the lore of the world, which was really nice. But otherwise, we were just with Amari and her friends from the school, and it was fantastic. Then I was planning to start a couple of books that I needed to read. Well, one book that I needed to read for the sci-fi, self-published sci-fi competition, and then another book that was on my TBR. But I opened up my Kindle, and a new Earth Divers volume had just popped up there. So I read number 4 in the Earth Divers series called Kill Columbus, written by Stephen Graham Jones. It's a graphic novel. It's about 30 graphic novel pages, however, long that takes you to read, maybe 20 minutes, 15 or 20 minutes. And so I can just say after reading book 4 that I am confused. I'm confused about how the time travel works in this book or in this world. I'm confused about where some of the groups of people are and what's going on with them. I feel like the Columbus storyline about the guy who went back in time, I understand that part the most. It is what is happening in the present time and potentially another timeline that is so confusing to me. So I have pre-ordered them all in book form, and so whenever that whole volume comes out of all of them together, I'm going to have to sit down and reread it. But just the overall concept of this is so great, and so far the books have been, like I said, that one part of the storyline has been really easy to follow and really good. So I highly recommend it. I just can't wait to get my hands on the physical copies. So that took me almost no time to read. And so the next thing I was starting was the NetGalley book that I got called In the Shadow of Lightning by Brian McClellan. I had never read any of his stuff before. I had heard of the Powder Mage series that everybody talks about, or I feel like a lot of fantasy readers talk about. And it popped up on my TBR game. That was my NetGalley read. So I was like, okay, let me go ahead and get started on it. It's a long book, but it was so good. The characters were so well done. I'm always drawn to the characters first. You know this if you've been here. And these were fantastic. The magic system also in this world is really cool. It works with glass. You can tell from the cover that it has something to do with glass. And so it is just the coolest thing. And the characters were so perfectly flawed. Like, they were not these cookie cutter characters that do this thing in this way and progress to the next level of characterhood. Not at all. They were so multifaceted, and I just wanted to keep reading to find out what was going to happen. This is being told from multiple points of view in multiple areas, not times. It's all happening at the same time, except for the prologue at the beginning. That's in the past. And then we jump forward to the future and everything, or to the present, and then everything is happening there. But we do get multiple people's points of view, which I really liked because, some of them are like high class people that are rich. Some of them are like poor peasant people who've never even been taught to read. Some of them are somewhere in the middle. Some of them have magical abilities and some of them do not. Like the characters are just so good in this, and I have immediately gone to put Powder Mage series on my to read list, and I will be looking for book number 2 when it comes out, and I will definitely be reading it. I'm so glad that I got approved for the arc of this, even though it came out in 2022, and I'm just now reading it because I am fixing my NetGalley this year. I'm doing it. So, those are all the books that I finished last week, or this past week. What am I currently reading? So, I am currently reading nothing physical except Game of Thrones. I think I'm going to hold this up every time, and my little tabs are going to get further and further along in this book. I am on page 171, and when I get to page 200, I'm going to do another blog post. So if you are not following Steve at Steve Talks Books, he has a pagechewing.com blog. He also has the forum there at pagechewing.com, but he has a blog. And I am putting my thoughts about this book in that blog. So if you want to go and check it out, I will leave all of that linked down below. I am also still reading Assassin's Apprentice with Andrew. We are doing 2 chapters a day. I'm more than halfway through. I think we're in the 60th percentile. So maybe next week we'll be finished when I check in. I don't know. I'm also reading Tress of the Emerald Sea, which is the secret project from Brandon Sanderson. I am right at halfway done with that, and I'm just taking my time. That is on my Kindle, and when I lay down in bed at night, I just read a couple of chapters, maybe 3 or 4 chapters before I turn everything off and go to sleep. So that one's just going with me slowly, and I love it. I love how quirky it is. It's just super cute. For the sci-fi, self-published sci-fi, I'm reading 2 of those at the same time. And number 1, it's because they're so different. Like, normally I can't read 2 epic fantasies at the same time, or 2 genres that are really close together, just because I start associating one with the other and some of the characters get confusing, especially if there's a lot of them. But anyway, one of these is a space sci-fi where they are flying through space trying to solve who got killed, or trying to solve why this person got killed. So that's happening here, and I'm reading that one on my Kindle. That's called Hammer and Crucible. I am loving it. Also, I'm reading on audio Bloodlines, this book. This one was the only one, I think, out of our 7 books that had audio available, and I was like, well, I'm going to pick it up because I'll be able to read it much faster on audio than I will be physically reading it. Now, sometimes I'm immersion reading it because I also have the ebook copy of it, and so sometimes I'm reading it there, sometimes I'm listening, and sometimes I'm doing both, but I'm just going back and forth with that one, and that's it. I am currently reading 5 books, and I'm not going to add any more, even though I really want to. So what's coming up next, you ask? Jim Butcher is coming up next. If you've been here since the beginning, you know that I went thrift store shopping last year when we still lived in Texas, and I got the first 2 through 10 of the Dresden Files, and book 1 was missing, which I didn't know. I just grabbed all these Dresden books, and I was like, oh, people have been talking about this. I might like it. So I just grabbed them all, and then I got home and I started looking them up and everything, and I was like, oh, I don't have book 1. I have books 2 through 10. So I did get book 1 from the library, and I read it early last year. And then I intended to keep going. I think I may have even started book 2. I can't even remember. But Leslie at the Nerdy Narrative has said that she and somebody else with her, I'll try to find out who it is. I'll at least link the Discord where everybody's talking about it, and you guys can check that out. But they are reading everything, short stories, graphic novels, and the regular length novels for a whole year of Dresden. And I was like, what a better time to jump back into it. So the first month for January, there are 2 short stories, a graphic novel, and a book. So both of the short stories were available at my library, so I have them on my Libby app. The graphic novel was available through Kindle Unlimited with Comixology, so I have that one. And I have book 1 also from my library, just like last time. So that is what I will be jumping into next. I am making myself finish all 5 of these books. Well, not Game of Thrones, but the 4 other books. I'm making myself finish them before I jump into the Dresden stuff. So hopefully I'll be able to get to that by the time I see you next week. I don't know, but it's one of my plans. A few times a day, Skeeter comes over and wants to get in my lap. And when I pick her up, she has to get on the table. Let me back up so I can show you. I don't want her to try to jump down, but she has to get on my desk. I'm editing. She has to get on my desk and make sure there's no food up here, to just make sure I'm telling the truth when I tell her that there's no food. So this happens at least twice a day. There's no food up here. Okay. I don't want her to jump down, so I'm going to get closer. Anyway, now for some non-reading things. My husband and I went on our first hike since we moved to Alabama. Why did it take us 6 months almost to do it? Well, it is 6 months. We've been here 6 months. So I don't know why it took us this long, other than I finally just looked it up, put it on the calendar, and said, we're going on this day. It was fantastic. It ended up being a beautiful day. There's not really winter here in Alabama where we live, so we can kind of go whenever we want. So I have another one planned in a couple of weeks, just because I have to work with his schedule and my schedule and when we're going to be here. Speaking of that, we are going to Disney World between this time this week that I see you and this time next week when I see you. We will have spent 3.5, 2 full days at Disney World. So I am very excited about it, but I'm going to keep reading. I think I'm going to try to do a vlog reading something at Disney. I don't even know what I want to do. So you guys put your comments below, because this video is coming out before we leave to go to Disney. So tell me what you think I should try to read. Now, I only have a car ride on Friday, and then I have Saturday is all day at a park, Sunday is all day at another park, and then I have the car ride back on Monday. So don't give me like a 5-book series. Let's say 2 books, maybe the most that I can read during that time. So put your comments down below and let me know what you think that I should read, because I really want to try something that's like fantastical while I'm at Disney World, but I don't have any ideas. I don't want to go get like a little Disney book, but I don't know, maybe I could read. I don't know. I just have no ideas. I want you guys to leave them down below for me. And then I do have a question of the week. I was watching Mark's video from Book Time with Elvis, so I will link him down below if you've not watched his channel. And he was talking about people being intimidated by longer books. And I don't mean like Game of Thrones 700-page books. I mean like The Stand by Stephen King, 1,100-page books. The Brothers Karamazov, I don't know how you say their names, but those brothers, I think people are intimidated by that book. War and Peace, right? Like that, when I was growing up, was like the longest book that anybody could think of. And so those kind of books that are like 1,100 pages and longer books, he was saying that people are more concerned with reading 5 300-page books instead of one 1,500-page book. I did do math right. 5 300-page books is 1,500 pages, and one book that's 1,500 pages. And for some reason, our brains are like 5 books is better than one book, even though the pages are the same. So my question for you is that how you see it? Or have you been able to move your brain around to being page numbers, the number of pages, mean more than the number of books? And some of you, it might mean none of it means anything to you. You're like, I just read what I want to read, however long, however short. I mean, that's amazing if that's what you do. But I do have such a hard time with saying I only read 4 books this month, even though all 4 of those were over 1,100 pages. You know, like, I just don't think I could do that. Number one, that is asking a lot. But what I'm doing for Game of Thrones, and what I've heard that a few people are doing with, I can't even remember what book it is, but there is one of those super long books that everybody's intimidated by, and it has like 363 chapters. So they're reading 1 chapter a day, and you get to miss one day, and you still finish the book by the end of the year. So 1 chapter a day, through one book for the whole year. I mean, you can do that in the background while you're doing other things. I just wonder, I don't know that I would do that. I feel like I would get bored with just reading a little bit every day, and I'd be like, I have to read more of this. Or I would let a few days go by and I wouldn't read, and then I'd be like, oh, I have to read like 5 chapters today. I'm not doing that. So I just feel like if it's that long of a project thing, I'm probably not going to do it. I just want to know what you guys think about it. I'm trying to move myself away from the number of books that I read being a thing that matters. And one of the ways that I have done that is in the past, probably for the past 10 years, I'm going to say, I have read over 300 books a year. And I haven't tracked it, I haven't kept up with it, but my pace was definitely one book every 1 to 2 days. I was probably reading 2 books every 3 days. And so it worked out to be between 250 and 300 books a year, probably for the last 10 years. And so what I have done, last year I set it and then I just ignored it completely. But this year what I've done is I have set a reading goal of 150 books. And I just kind of want to know what happens when I hit that goal. Like when I get to 150, what is my brain going to do? Is it going to be like, okay, let's just quit reading for the rest of the year? That's a distinct possibility, although it hasn't happened in 10 years, so I don't know that it's going to happen, but it could. Or am I going to just breeze by it and be like, okay, that didn't mean anything. So I don't know. We'll see what happens when we get there. But first I set it at 100 books and I was like, okay, that's ridiculous. Like I'm going to hit that pretty early in the year. And then I'm just going to be like, now what do I do? So this way I'm trying to make myself slow down and go a little bit slower through the books, which yes, I have finished 6 books this year, but it is the 11th. And that means I'm averaging 1 book every other day, which if you take 365 divided by 2, that is going to be less than 200 books. So that is still better than it has been in a really long time. And I want to know if the number of books matters to you at all, or if you look at the page numbers. Like, have you been able to just completely separate yourself and your, I don't know, performance, whatever it is that we're trying to do by saying how many books we're going to read? Like, I just want to know your thoughts about it. And Mark's video sparked that thought in my head, and I just wanted to bring it up with you guys. Okay, so I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and let me know what I should read at Disney World, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.